That one.
Oh shit!
Press the wrong button.
Hey.
Classic.
So hello, I'm Rex. You can find me on the internet under RexBox, and I'm like a very old person now, and I've worked on games for a long time. I worked at Lionhead back in the day. Made some games like Black and White and Fable. A game called The Movies, which was an amazing game, and it was really unfortunate because you ran a movie studio and it was before YouTube existed. So everyone was like, I've made cool movies, what do I do with them now? And but you know, YouTube came along a bit later on, but that was fun, and LittleBigPlanet and some other games, and just tried to make games that are like very full of like heart and a lot of art as well. You know, just like very trying to make things that are quite heartfelt and personal, and hopefully will like bring other people into games and making their own games. And actually, a lot of this is just trying to make up for the fact that I've also worked in TV and advertising, and I'm trying to atone for the fact that I created the logo for ITV2's Celebrity Juice. You know, wow. I'm hoping if I keep making these pretty games, that will just go away. Just like that. And then most recently I've been making a game called Nights and Bikes with my friend Lou, and we did it as a Kickstarter, and it's a game about two girls cycling around having adventures on bikes in the 1980s. It came out like last year, came out on Switch like 2 weeks ago. It's very reasonably priced, but I'm going to move on. And normally I talk about my art direction and design process, and how I really believe in like working in sketchbooks and getting out into the world and putting your thoughts down and like just not using the computers for as long as you possibly can. I also like to talk about kind of having a very high-level goal that's very defined on a project, so that all of the decisions that you make in terms of like art and audio and story and what have you, you just make all those design decisions a lot easier if you have a very clear goal very early on. But that's kind of a big talk, and you know, I just want to do something a bit smaller and a bit more fun today, so I am going to focus on just this one thing, bikes.
Love bikes!
Bikes are cool! Who knew? And bikes and video games as well. Another awesome thing. And you know, as a child, apart from drawing, the two things I liked most were bikes and also toads. This is me. I couldn't find a photo of me like with my face, so this is also me, but this is a different photo, and I'm holding some toads because I was very into toads, and you know, and I loved going on adventures to try and find more toads, and the way that you found more toads was you got a bike. That, you know, that really opened up your toad horizons. You know, and then you could really collect a lot of toads. Even though this is back in the time where jeans only had one pocket, so you couldn't carry many of them. But, you know, good times. And the thing I really didn't like, though, was computers. Oh, look, it's a dark room with a computer in it, and this guy. And you know, computers were kind of bad to me because you had to type. I don't want to be typing. You had to spell things correctly. And this was a long time ago. You know, you had, worst of all, you had to do it indoors, like way away from your little toad friends. They're all outside. What are you doing in here? You'd be out with your toads. So, you know, I was very, very unhappy about the whole idea of computers. And we had this computer in school. We had one computer. It was called a BBC Micro. And, awesome. Granny's Garden.
Yeah.
That sent shivers down anyone's spine, as mine. It was fine, but I didn't really like it. And the best thing about the computer was that it had this cool logo of an owl. It's a nice owl. Yeah, I really liked the logo of the owl. That was the one redeeming feature. But you know, it meant that I was indoors. I wasn't into this at all. I wanted a computer that I could take outside. But the computer I really wanted was a computer that was built into a bike. I don't know if anyone's seen this before. The Rally Vector. Like the best bike ever. It's like made in VR. It's so cool. And it's all angles. It's like crazy shapes. And it had a cool logo, like even better than the owl. And I just thought, oh, this is gonna be like riding around on an electric guitar. It's just so like wild. But also it had a computer built in, which was kind of intriguing. At that point, I didn't get to see videos. You just got told this bike had a computer built in, so I didn't really know the reality of what the computer could do. So, in more recent times, I found out what the computer was actually like. So let's have a little demo here.
Well, mildly epic.
So, it was like a total triumph of marketing over technology. It just makes sounds. You can put that on a greetings card. It's very simple technology in there, but it was exciting. It was brand new. Unfortunately, around that time, I got ill. I couldn't go outside anymore. I had to, I didn't get to see my little amphibious friends for several years. So I had to sort of start re-evaluating what, maybe computers are quite good. Maybe they could be useful. And they've moved on a little bit. They started to become more graphically enhanced, and there was more potential to make your own games with the Amiga 500. That was my first ever machine. So good. So I kind of, at the time I did not create a PowerPoint with two columns, but I'm sort of post-rationalizing this now. But, I thought about we've got bikes on one side and video games on the other side, and they both allow you to explore a world, whether that's the real world or a made-up world. They both, I can't actually read this with the texture, inspiration and surprises. Through touring around in these worlds, whether it's the real world or whether it's a made-up world, then you'll go see things that you've not expected, things that you haven't seen before. That's going to stimulate you to create your own stuff. Exercise and exhilaration. Well, real bikes definitely win in exercise, but they can both do the exhilaration, moving around quickly, and just being sort of on the edge of control. There's challenge. You can challenge yourself when you're on a real bike. You see a mountain, I can cycle to it. If you're in a game, you're in a similar situation. And there are experiences that you can share with others. So you can go cycling with your friends, you can sit on the couch together and play. They're also, a real bike is a way that you can find toads, which you can also find in video games. So I was going to do like just a little sort of personal history of cycling and bikes in video games. Now, I'm already using like motorbikes in the background, so you can probably tell there aren't so many examples. They kind of ran out before I started. Anyone remember Paperboy or Silly Paperboy? This was a game about being a kid, kind of a scary looking kid, and you cycle around your neighbourhood. We don't so much cycle around it, it's just carpet. Let's do that again. There we go. So you cycle through your neighbourhood and you deliver newspapers. You throw them, and with good timing, you try and get them in the mailboxes. And it's kind of a cool mechanic for a very early game. Kind of interesting to see how it's like timing based, but it's not like a shoot 'em up. I mean, you're kind of shooting at the houses, but it's interesting, like the skinning that they've given it. And obviously, like lots of fun of being a kid and messing around in this like adult. Sort of perfect suburbia, where you can turn up and get some newspapers into mailboxes or anywhere that you shouldn't be logging them. And then moving on a little bit to Earthbound. This is like one of my top 3 games of all time. Just love this game so much, and it was a big influence when we were making Knights and Bikes as well. That was mainly for it being a game about sort of coming of age and of feeling that you're like some kids going on an adventure together and sort of butting up against the adult world and learning about it and like sort of rising above, just really going on an adventure as kids together. I'd totally forgotten that there was actually bikes in it. And to be honest, like, the cycling isn't that good. Let's just play it. You are essentially, you're like walking, but on a bike. You go slightly faster. It's kind of a little bit of novelty, but you don't really feel like you're actually cycling. You've got all that momentum and exhilaration that you might expect, but at the same time, it's kind of fun because you are actually going off on an adventure and you are like exploring properly. You're not just like Paperboy just going up the screen. So it's kind of a bit of a step on. And then 3D came along. Limitless potential to explore worlds and really go to like new places. But there weren't so many cycling games. So our old friend Paperboy, he came back.
Paperboy is
There's some early CG for you. Yeah. That's worse than my logo. And then not so much happened. There became a trend for creating like more everyday sports games. So we've got obviously classic Tony Hawk skateboarding. So many hours spent on that. But also snowboarding, surfing. Never played that. I'm not kind of sure how that worked, but it's kind of a bit intriguing. And then bikes also got in on it a little bit with Dave Mirror, freestyle BMX. I feel that it's maybe sort of, very much part of the Tony Hawk thing of, you're not exploring on your bikes, you're pulling off stunts. But for some kind of crazy reason, I'm not quite sure why. I'm sure there's stuff online if I'd actually done any research. The publisher decided with the sequel to this game to go in a kind of slightly different direction, and instead of taking all the good stuff, all that stuff on my list of like, you can travel the world and you can see stuff and be inspired and has an incredible the feel of wind in your hair, they decided to turn it into this thing called BMX XXX. I'm not quite sure what it was about cycling that they thought it needed to be sexy and it needed to be like a gross out comedy, but they went for it, and it's a very bad game. It's very, very bad. But moving on, a little bit newer, kind of sometimes with a similar tone, GTA. And by the time it got to GTA 5, became like actually quite a pleasant thing to be cycling around in the world. And I got really into going for little bike rides. This is a video I found of some kind of friend group that they all meet up on Saturday mornings and all like sort of role play as a BMX gang, and they all like cycle out into the woods and have fun together. And you know, by this time, it was starting to really get the feel of you're exploring, you're cycling, you're seeing stuff. It's very beautiful, exhilaration, all of that stuff. But the problem I have is that it's kind of, I'm kind of enjoying this chill experience, but at the same time, this chill experience is within the framework, like Rockstar's framework, which is essentially a chaos simulator. So the game wants bad stuff to happen to you all the time. And I just want to cycle around, and you know, I might like accidentally hit someone's dog, and they pull out a Uzi and they kill me, or they phone in the military and they bring a tank. So you know, it's kind of I'm a cat person. What can I say? So you know, it's kind of quite a lot of tension at the same time, which wasn't necessarily what I was looking for in cycling games, but yeah. But you know, with indie games explosion, many more creators making games, and they have obviously, like, you know, wanted to create some of these similar feelings of cycling and of exploration, and so we've got Stillbird Playground, which is really beautiful and charming, and I love it. And you know, it's kind of interesting in that it does the thing that BMX XXX always wanted to do but never could do, which is make you laugh. You know, it's just joyful, and it's really cool to see that. And then also Lonely Mountains Downhill, another game that like really simulates that feeling of existence. That like a whatever military aeroplane is going to hit you at any point. And then, you know, I have to kind of say it, but Nights and Bikes, you know, I feel that we did a pretty good job. Didn't feel like there were a lot of other games that really base a whole sort of story-based adventure around biking. And we really wanted to, you know, when you get your first bike, it's such a key moment. It's a real coming-of-age moment where, for the first time, you actually get to explore the world without your parents. So that was something that we were really going for with that game. And then, yeah, so weirdly, I kind of ended up getting my my Rally Vector. I mean, I didn't really get my Rally Vector. I got it in the form of a laptop. You know, it's a computer that I could take anywhere. Didn't have wheels on it, but at least I can take it around. I didn't have to use it in a computer room. And yes, it does make cool noises, which is good. But it does a lot more than that. And you know, I'm a strong believer in when you're creating stuff to go out into the world and absorb what's around you. I think the weird thing about making video games is that you're creating an entire universe from scratch. It doesn't exist before you start. And because you have to create everything from scratch, it's very easy to create a bubble around yourself. And like doing things out in the world enables you to like, it's just the best way to like pop that bubble. And you know, you're forced to like absorb influences and things that you weren't expecting. So you know, I think it's really important to get out there, whether that's with a Rally Vector or with a laptop. Just, you know, absorb and create based off that. So kind of wrapping up, back to my original list. The thing that that real bikes do, which games never can do, is this bit, the exercise bit. Very hard to do with a video game. Although I'm very into Ring Fit at the moment. Every morning, like, you know, pumping away on my anyway. But you know, it was quite a hard game to make, Nights and Bikes. There were only like 2 of us on it the majority of the time, and then we had some friends helping out the audio. And I did work a bit too hard, and not, you know, I definitely don't recommend it. It's not good for like heart or mind. But in the very late stages of the development, I hit on this sort of new idea that I wanted to do, which is. You know, I still wanted to play other games. I wanted to remember the joy of what games give you, but I didn't want to do it passively. So ever since that day, I've only played Switch games whilst on an exercise bike. I really recommend it. It's really good. I do kind of look a bit like that guy when I'm doing it. I'm very engrossed, and it's cool. It's a fun way to play games and get something out of it. And I just wanted to finish with my top 3 games for playing on an exercise bike on Switch. So, number 3. Number 3 is, I should have had like some kind of drum roll. Let's get ready. Any guesses? You should probably only guess when we get to like number 1. But number 3 is Consider It. Has anyone played this?
Yeah, I've played this.
It's an amazing game, it's so good. And it's not, you know, it's maybe not the most immediate choice for playing on a bike, but it's very cool. I really love like the characters. It's all about being respectful and being considerate. And you do very simple interactions like help dominoes fall over, and you just push the joystick in the direction you need to do, and it's very sort of intuitive. But it's a nice thing to do because it doesn't have any of that feeling of like trying to pat your head and rub your stomach kind of feeling, which you can sometimes have when you're trying to play a games console whilst pedaling. You know, it gets kind of complicated. There's some games I've like practically fallen off because I'm like trying to pull off some special move and kind of trying to keep pedaling at the same time. Number 2 is a bit more sort of standard, this one. It's Mario Kart. So it's kind of crazy. You wouldn't believe how fast you pedal while you're trying to do it. Like, there is no relationship between what your feet are doing and what the game is doing. But you are pedaling like fuck. So, you know, you are just going for it. So that's a fun one to play as well. And then number 1, right, you actually have to get takers.
Exciter bike for the Nintendo Online.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, yeah, that would be. I should try that. Yeah. So my number 1 is Skyrim, and it's actually better, I think, than just across the room. It's better because the game is worse. It's brilliant because you know, in Zelda, like a Link is very agile. You know, he can he can climb up things, he can jump around. You can't do that on an exercise bike, you feel weird, you know, it's like weird to be pedaling whilst like flying. Whereas Skyrim, even though you're supposed to be this big tough guy, you might as well be a car in this game. You know, you never leave the ground for more than a second. You know, you just sort of like slide around the landscape, hitting things, and it's perfect for an exercise bike. So I really recommend Skyrim on an exercise bike. Just 2 tips: never buy a horse, because that's really weird to put a horse into the equation, and it's also really good to never fast travel, so that you always feel like you've actually like genuinely cycled across the entire world to give someone like a dried out newt or something. So that's a good little tip there. So thank you very much for listening. It's been a real pleasure.